I give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kwadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone well, which taught Israel the truth, taught me the truth. Yahweh Shai is the truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. Wa Abba Babal. So I recommend you watch this movie, The Lost City of Z. All right, which I'm not going to tell you everything about the movie, but I'm going to point out two things. All right, one, it shows how Esau is a vagabond. All right, and that the Israelites, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians of North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, we are the Israelites which were exiled out of the land of Israel, which when we were in Israel, we had golden cities like Jerusalem. We had a temple that was literally covered in gold. Well, in this movie, they show you that there was in South America, like Bolivia, there is golden cities. All right. And they were mocking this soldier that he believed in the city, all right, the lost city of Z. And he says it was pretty much a civilized, sophisticated city. And the so called white man didn't want it to be revealed because they wanted to use the propaganda of them being savages so that they could slaughter them, claiming that they were bringing civilization to them. But in fact, they were already civilized. So called Columbus, right, which his real name was Cristobal Colon, he didn't discover nothing. We were already here. We came to what you know as the Americas today. Back then on Assyrian slave ships, the Northern Kingdom. Then the Southern Kingdom came on slave ships from West Africa, which they were running from the Roman Edomite in 70 AD. That's why they were in West Africa. All right, but I just want to get a couple scriptures and then I'll close it out. One, how Esau is a vagabond. Genesis 4 and verse 13. So Cain, all right, if you understand, Esau, the so-called white race, their forefather is Esau, the son of Isaac, which he came out red and small. All right. And Isaac was a so-called black man. All right. And he was, Esau was the reincarnation of Cain. Cain was a so-called black man, but he lost his color when he murdered his brother Abel and hid his body. All right. The Lord took his color from him, making him a so-called Caucasian. All right. And Genesis 4, verse 13, and Cain, which Cain means weapon, like a stabbing weapon or a dagger, said unto Yahweh, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, which he has no connection to the Lord like the Israelite does. All right. And he's cursed from the earth because he sheds blood. All right. He pursues blood. And I shall be a fugitive because he's running from justice and a vagabond in the earth, which this movie shows how they're vagabonds, which back in the day they were, as they say, adventurers trying to look for gold, look for people to enslave. All right. They were on missions, which they don't have that spirit as much as today. Like these Edomites, they really don't want to go to war in Iran. All right. But back in the day, they were full of fire wanting to conquer. All right. But now they're at their end. So they have weakened the nations and they have weakened themselves. All right. And a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. So this is a future prophecy. All right. When we get the kingdom here on earth, which we will be put back in the promised land, all right, Esau is going to be the scum of the earth, and he is going to be pretty much hunted by everybody in slavery. He's going to be the lowest slave on the totem pole under the Israelite, which he's already the scum of the earth, but it's going to be revealed. Remember, through movie magic and propaganda, they made themselves an angel of light. That's why they wanted us to be labeled as savages and themselves as a hero. All right. Civilization was really before the so-called white race and their wicked ass society. All right. And they don't want you to know that. They use propaganda of saying that we're savages so that they could try to destroy us. All right. Now, the word vagabond, I want you to see that word, vagabond, all right, which is nawad, and it says right here, to move, and it says to move and to fro, wander aimlessly, take flight. So that's what they do. They're everywhere. They back in the day, they were trying to look everywhere. That's why they came up with these ideas, which really it was Yahweh Ba'Hasham, Yahweh Shai, that gave them the ability through their technology to see the earth through satellite images. They have planes, they have cars, which are able to travel farther and faster. All right. And it was so that they could conquer the earth with the sword. All right. Which they done. All right. In that movie, they showed you that they conquered that land by the sword. All right. And you had a bunch of different Edomites, but Edomites, nevertheless, all right, the so-called white race. You had the Portuguese, you had the Spanish, you had the Greeks, you had the Romans, you had the British, you had the Germans, all right, you had the French, all right. The other day, we met a French Canadian, all right. America, they talk about their history being connected to the British, all right. When you go down into South America, you had one of those so-called popes that came out of South America, but his lineage went back to the German Edomite, Teman. Nero 47, he's a German Edomite. Of the Edomites, those are Teman. All right, because they literally covered the earth and they took it by force. All right. And what it also showed is that we were better than them. We are more ancient than them, and we had golden cities. Esau don't have golden cities. We had golden cities. Jerusalem was a golden city, and they had golden cities. They used gold from South America, the Caribbeans, to North America. All right, we use gold. Esau doesn't use gold like we use gold. All right, you see Jake when they get a little bit of money. Right? They'll deck themselves out with gold. They'll dip the engine of the car in gold. They'll have gold rims. Esau, they don't move like that because they don't have salt. All right? So I just wanted to show that they pretty much were fugitives. They're running from judgment. All right? And vagabonds. They pretty much just travel all over the place, going back to the blessing of them having the fatness of the earth. All right. And then the golden cities, when you go to Tobit, it tells you when we go into the promised land, we go back. All right. We're going to have a golden city again. All right. Tobit 13. which shows you that those people over there are nothing but counterfeits. They're not the real Jew. It says in Tobit 13, verse 15, let my soul bless Yahweh the great King, and we do this through Yahweh Shai, for Jerusalem shall be built up with sapphires and emeralds and precious stones. Thy walls and thy towers and battlements with pure gold. And that's what they said it was a myth, but it was true. We had golden cities through the jungle, through Mexico. They even had gold up here in North America. That's why they had the gold rush. All right. It says embattlements with pure gold. So our structures are going to be decked out with pure gold and precious stones, which shows you that those people over there today in modern times, the tiny tops, are counterfeits. And the streets of Jerusalem shall be paved with beryl and carbuncle and stones of Ophir, and all her streets shall say Halawayah, which is praise Yahweh, and they shall praise him, saying, blessed be Yahweh through Yahweh Shai, which hath extolled it forever, which Yahweh is going to raise up Jerusalem, starting with the Israelites. All right, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, which we've been scattered and exiled from our land, Jerusalem, and we've been scattered throughout the world in slavery. All right, but we're going to return to that land, and we're going to build our land back up on the back of our slaves, which is going to be the other nations, starting with that so-called white race, which murdered us, robbed us, raped us, and lied about it. And even now, they try to condemn us. All right, but we got the victory because Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai is for us, and this is why we don't perish completely. And the so-called white race is at its end because they don't have that burning passion of traveling and conquering like they once had as a people. Remember, manifest destiny. Shit, right now, these Edomites, these so-called Caucasians, they don't want to go to war in Iran, right? Now, they might talk a good talk, but really, if you deal with these Edomites and you see what they're really about, they don't want to leave their wife and their home and, go to the desert to fight, which back in the day they did. You see? They did. They were all over the place taking the land from the inhabitants. But now they're at their end and they just want to be comfortable. They don't want to conquer like they once did because they're at their end. All right? They're losing grip of ruling the world. And it's because the tables are turning and coming to us. The Israelites are going to rule the world and we're going to conquer these heathen. They're going to be put under us by Yahweh's Son, Yahweh Shai, and they're going to be our slaves, and we're going to build up the kingdom of heaven, which will be in the promised land, and it's going to be of precious stone and dipped in gold. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel, Wa Abba Babal.